Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. Rusty and Heather Bryant with you, and we are glad to be back with another episode of the Summer Shorts series.
You were waiting on it, but I'm not doing it.
I'm still waiting.
Okay, fine. Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts, do 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 do. Summer shorts. But in a few short weeks, I'm going to change the song. I know.
Y'all see what happens when she's off work for the summer?
So I was reading through a lot of these questions that we have gotten, and some of them we can literally answer in 2 minutes. Some of them I think I could answer in 1 sentence. And so we can't do a whole podcast about those, but I think that they're important questions. So what I want to know from you is, can we give out more than one item of swag per week?
Sure, but I'm also 100% sure that we can never answer a question in one sentence.
That's not true. So are you ready for my new song that I'm going to name it?
I guess so.
I think you're going to like it. Okay, here it goes. Daisy Dukes, Dukes.
Why don't we just do this? Just a good old boy. That's from the Dukes of Hazzard.
No, it's not.
Never meaning no harm.
No.
Beats all he never saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day he was born.
You're going to get us kicked off YouTube.
No, it's fine. All right,
But
hey,
you
let's
didn't
move
like
into
my song.
I did. Daisy, Dukes, Dukes. We could even do it that way. Dukes.
Well, that's what I was going to do, but you cut me off.
All right, we're in the middle of our summer short series. We're answering your questions. It's been a ton of fun so far. 4 down. Actually, I don't know, because we're fixing to actually do a couple of these, so I don't know. This one might be
Maybe
5th or
5 and
6th. Who
6?
knows?
Maybe. We'll see.
But we're answering your questions, and keep them coming. You've got all throughout the rest of the summer, with all of June and July. You can go to our website, click on Contact, click on Ask, and submit your question. You will be entered into a drawing for a double date with Rusty and Heather.
Yeah, I was reading through these questions today, and somebody on the enter me for the drawing for date night or nah, and somebody put nah. It hurt my feelings.
Well, there's been a lot of questions, and if we only have one nah so far, that's okay.
I was like, oh, they don't want us to meet them. Okay, but today's question.
If that's you that said nah, we're going to just knock on your door one day.
I don't even know where they were from.
But I don't know, but that person is listening right now going, oh shoot.
They're going to come to my house. Okay.
All right, what's the question?
They may not have put their address since they said nah. I don't know.
We can find
Okay.
you. We know people.
You're freaking people out. Stop. We're not going to do that, person.
No, we love you, even if you say nah.
That's right. Okay, so today's question comes all the way from Clinton, Mississippi.
That's our town.
That's our town. I know, but I just really love this question.
Well, it's probably not fair if we don't do one
That's
from
right,
our
because-
hometown,
that's
because
right.
we've gotten quite a few. I mean,
Yes.
there's a couple of people that listen to us around here. So.
And so it is from our very hometown.
All right, let's do it.
Clinton, Mississippi.
Go.
And the question says, what are your best tips on how to intentionally create time to connect with your spouse, even with young kids? Not just physical intimacy, but also to connect in an emotional, intimate way with young kids. Now, I will say that we've had more than one question about this. I liked the way this one was worded, and it specifically asked about young kids. But I think kids in general can have a tendency to take away from your time to be spiritually, emotionally, physically intimate. And so I think the question in general that we need to answer is how to be intentional about that. And if you don't have kids, don't cut us off, because you may have other things in your life that take that role.
I think that I mean, we have grown kids.
Yeah.
And we still have to figure that
and
out.
if you don't have kids, there's jobs. Hobbies. There's all sorts of things that can take your attention.
Right.
And so it's how can you be intentional? But I will say with little ones running around, it makes it exceedingly hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Go. Give them your answers.
You go. I read the question.
No, you go.
It's your
You
turn.
go. Okay, it is a good question because I do think it applies to everybody. But let's talk a little bit just about, with kids and having little kids and all the difficulties that come along with that. So there's a lot of difficulties that come along with that. One is, people that have children are just tired all the time. And it's not like the toddler stage is less or more tiring than the next stage, because then all of a sudden you get into this, we're in 10 different activities, and we're
Travel
taking
ball.
we're going to all these sporting events, and all this, we're having to divide and conquer, and you're taking one kid this place, and you're taking and it does, a lot of times it just feels like you're passing in the wind.
Right.
And so there definitely needs to be some intentional time, because one of the dangers that I see in this is saying, oh, this is just a hard season, so it's not going to last forever, and then we'll circle back around.
Then
and
we'll reconnect.
You will reconnect. If you start neglecting your marriage, even in those hard seasons, you're going to get on the other side of that season and go, I don't even know this person.
That's right.
And it's really, really hard to get back to a place.
And to relearn them. And I will say, I'll just throw it out there. We did not do great with this before pre-affair. We didn't. We were great parents, and we poured into them amazingly, but we neglected to pour into and make a priority for ourselves. We also, I've heard on several occasions, and there's been some kind of debate on this topic, whether your marriage is more important than your children. And it's, should you put your children first? Should you put your marriage first? And we are very firm believers in putting your marriage first, and then your children benefit from that.
That's right.
And so on that topic, I think that we also did a better job post-affair. And just for a point of reference for people who don't know, the adultery happened when our children were in 4th grade and kindergarten.
9 and 5.
And so we did have 9 years of not putting our marriage first with our oldest. And then kind of we were being forced to change that, because we knew if we were going to make our marriage work, it had to come first. And so I would love for people listening to this to be able to pull and glean from what we learned and what we did post-affair, so that it doesn't get you into the position that we got into.
So let me just start by saying, too, that we just preach so much and harp on self-care, and that the health of your marriage can only be as healthy as the least healthy member of the couple.
That's right.
So that's where it starts. Like, you can just for a second set aside the how do we stay connected if you're not healthy, and that means taking time for your own spiritual growth. That means just taking time for yourself to be, whatever it is that you need to be healthy, exercise, eating right, enough sleep, all of that. And I know people are listening, they're going, how do you do that with these little kids? Well, it's a matter of priority and what's important. And so we're saying that for your spouse to have your best, and for your kids to have your best, you need to be at your best. And in order to be at your best, you have to make time for yourself.
Yeah.
So if that means changing some things about yourself, look, I have, through the years, if coming out of college, I could have told people, I am not a morning person. I do not like to wake up early in the morning. I'm still not a very good morning person, but I would say I'm not a morning person. I'll stay up late, and people wear that kind of stuff like a badge of honor, or maybe it's, I go to sleep at 8 o'clock or I'm in bed at 7:30, and, and they like to almost brag about it sometimes. And what needs to happen is you need to figure out the schedule that benefits you and your family. Not that you can stand in a group of people and brag about the fact that you stay up until midnight, or the fact that you wake up to go to the gym at 4 o'clock so you go to bed at 7. None of that matters. Like, it really doesn't matter. It matters what is it that's best for you, and it could change from season to season. Because I know for me it does. Like, there are times through the year, like right now, you get to sleep late or later because you're not
summer.
Because it's summer. But I don't get to. I'm like, usually I wake up before you leave. Now I'm getting up before you, but that's fine. That's just where we are in our season. But we adjust our season. We adjust our schedule to take care of ourselves, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
I have a really good friend that wakes up. You got me on the alarm clock. That takes off Friday from her kids. Like, she is a stay-at-home mom. She's with them all day, every day. She homeschools. And then she decides on Friday, that is her day. She
puts them in the closet
and
locks it.
Puts them right in the kennel. No, she gets someone to stay with her kids. And she is doing her things for herself. She goes to a coffee shop. It's not the only day she does her Bible study, but she really locks in and works on a thing she's trying to launch for herself. And I mean, it is purposeful time. And yes, that's only one day a week.
That's incredible.
But it's incredible. It's a time for her to be able to do that.
And you also don't let people look down on
shame
on
you
that.
for that.
Like,
Absolutely.
Because I know there's people out there, oh, you're a mom, you shouldn't get a babysitter once a week or what. We're just saying you have to do what's best for you and your family. And so, yes, if it's one day a week where you're like, man, I've got to take care of myself, and this is the day I'm going to, like you said, the coffee shop, invest in my Bible study.
And she also pours into somebody else during that time. She mentors, and it gives her that opportunity to do that.
And then think about how much more life she
can
has
give to her family
for the
and
other
spouse.
6 days of the week.
Well, and that's where we're going with this question, because the question is, how do you prioritize time for your spouse and your relationship? But I love your point in that it has to start with self-care. It has to start with, am I taking care of me, and am I taking care of my spiritual growth and emotional growth before I can ever start thinking about the relationship with my spouse?
Yeah, so let's transition just a little bit and talk about, how do you connect and stay connected during these hard seasons, these busy seasons. What are the things that you can do? Like, let's just, the word, I think it said, what are some tips?
Yeah.
So let's just give some tips.
Yeah.
And, we mentioned.
Not just tips. What are your best tips?
Oh, best tips.
Let's do those.
Well, our tips that aren't our best, let's leave those off. Let's just give our best tips.
Okay.
So I think that just like that, taking the friend that takes the one day and gets somebody to stay with the kids or make sure that they're taken care of, and maybe it's the husband that gets to stay with them. So whatever it is, it's not different from doing the same thing for you and your spouse.
That's right.
Like, find time. And this does not mean that once a week that you're going and you're putting on pants and a nice shirt to go out to eat.
Dress.
Like, it doesn't mean that, but it does mean that, hey, the two of us are going to schedule time for each other. And once a week would be great, just like in the case with this. But I understand you're going, well, if I take one day to take care of myself, and then there's one evening or whatever where I'm taking, but even for this person, what if on that Friday, that's their day, they take care of themselves, and then on Friday evening, they go out with their spouse?
Right.
Could you imagine how much that husband gets out of that night after
Right.
after his wife has been all day just making sure that her tank was completely full. And then the husband benefits from that. And then the next morning, Saturday morning, the kids benefit from it. There's just so much to be said for making time and scheduling time. Now, you got all of these people that they're going in 100 different directions, and so they're like,
And we were those people.
we were. So, I mean, but it is taking that calendar and going, hey, this night there's not anything crucial, or Luke has soccer practice. I'm backing up in life, but Luke has soccer practice. We can get a grandparent, or we can get a friend, a neighbor, that's going to the soccer fields to take them. That night is going to be sacred for us for that.
And we had to be so creative during that time. Like even when I can remember, we would go on walks sometimes when the boys were at soccer practice, like at the field, but it was just us, and we talked and we walked. It doesn't have to be like you said. It doesn't have to be a special put on a dress and suit and tie and go to a nice restaurant. It can be just purposeful time together. And I hear in my head, but we're so tired once we get the kids to bed. And I mean, I get that too, but laying on the couch together can be special for a little while too. And then there's also the seasons where you just have to say, we're getting a babysitter.
Yep.
And we're doing this. Now, I also can remember times, and let's talk about this for a minute, where we sat down with our calendar and we were like, okay, you're taking Luke to that tournament. I'm taking Logan to this tournament in different cities. And then Monday through Friday was they have soccer on this night, this on this night, baseball, blah, 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 blah on those nights. And literally we looked at our whole week and got nothing And I'm not saying, put the kids together and lay on the sofa. There were times where their soccer practices weren't over until 8:30 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And when they go to bed, we go into bed, And so what do you do in those seasons to not get discouraged?
You're asking.
I'm asking you. I have some thoughts too.
No, I think that those are the seasons where you're stealing the little minutes.
Right.
And you have to understand that the little minutes add up. And if you're stealing little minutes every day or every other day, then all of a sudden you've got time. It's not one block of time.
Right.
But it's time. And so I even think about, hey, can we just make sure at the end of an exhausting day that we're in the bed at the same time? Again, that doesn't, I know, look, we're admitting there's challenges to all of this. We're just giving some tips.
Sure.
If you're able to look at your day and you're like, hey, every kid is going to be home from their practices by whatever time, we're going to get them bathed, we're going to put them in the bed, and we know that the exhaustion of the day and the week is not going to allow us to have this time of, let's talk for the next 30 minutes. Like, we're going to fall asleep probably, but let's just make sure we're in the bed together, we check in together, and if nothing else, you turn on the TV and you lay there and fall asleep together. That is intentional, and that's just stealing moments.
And it's
that
being
you have
together.
to have.
That's right. And I think that if you're going to have a night like that it also is super important to check in during the day. Like,
Stay connected.
All
through the day.
Just wanted you to know I was thinking about you. How did your meeting go? I know that the class you're dreading is coming up. Just being intentional to allow your spouse to benefit from the fact that you are thinking about them. I mean, that gives so much life.
Yep.
And just knowing that your spouse, even though they're incredibly busy, they took 2 seconds to text you and say, I'm thinking about you.
Yep.
That's being intentional. That's not dinner, steak and wine. It's a text.
Yep.
But it still fuels the the flame of knowing that you're cared about and loved and thought about, even in the craziness.
So I got two things. I don't want to forget them. One is, if you have kids that are going in different directions, one of the things that you need to be really, really careful about is not gravitating towards one kid. So, I understand that when you have maybe a boy and a girl, it's just easier sometimes for the dad to go with the boy to their practices, the girl to go, the wife to go with the daughter to cheer, tumbling, or whatever. We didn't have those, so I don't know what all they did.
They would have still gone to soccer.
But be really careful about, especially those weekend trips and things, be very intentional about flipping that up sometimes, because you don't need to be stuck in a spot where dad just goes with this person or with this kid, and mom just goes with this kid. So the other thing that I was thinking about is, all right, we've kind of thrown out some things, and most of the stuff that we've thrown out, people are probably like, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's still hard. I just want to, there's a book that Ted Cunningham wrote. It's called Fun Loving You. And it just talks about continuing your relationship and having fun. And we've talked about this before. We don't necessarily love the language, the language. He doesn't cuss. We don't necessarily love the wording and stuff, but it is, if you were to say, we just need this lofty goal to shoot for, this is it. He emphasizes a daily delay, which is every day you find at least a few moments to just, like I've been saying, steal away to where you can just communicate. If it's at the end of the day, if it's at the beginning of the day, if it's smack dab in the middle of the day, but it's a daily delay to where you're emotionally connecting. It's not that you're going on a date every day. You are taking 10 minutes, 15 minutes to 5 minutes to where you're just saying, hey, how's your day? What can I do to help? We have a little tool that we started back that we can share that at some point, but it's just finding a time to emotionally connect. The second thing is the weekly withdrawal. And we used to look at that and go, oh, yeah, right. Who has time for a weekly date night? But we've learned through the years it's not just planning a date. It's just saying, just like we said at the beginning, look at that calendar and go, hey, Thursday, we're going to have a time to be together for an hour. And even like you said, even if it's everybody's going to be at the soccer field together, so instead of you staying home and cooking dinner, why don't you come too? And we go for a walk. We pick up food on the way home, that type thing. But it's a weekly withdrawal to where you're taking a more significant amount of time to do something together. And then the other one that he encourages, so it's three things. The other one is the annual abandon. And that's just the once a year, we got to get the heck out of Dodge, And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going on a cruise or you're going to Alaska or whatever. It could be that you're just going overnight to a bed and breakfast because that's all you can afford for that year. And we have lived there, so we know that.
Or you send the children off to grandparents and you stay at home.
Yes, exactly.
And that's cheaper.
That's right. So I would say that if you need just a goal to shoot for, daily delay, weekly withdrawal, and annual abandon, it's a great formula. If you get that right, then you are going to be connecting.
Yep. And it may feel like you're not. And I feel that in that question.
Yeah.
And I feel that when I talk to other people, it's like, but I want more, but I want more. And that's where the seasons come in. That's where, as long as you're being intentional, the next season is going to look different and there might be more time. And so don't get discouraged as long as you're being purposeful. If you throw whatever to the wind and you're like, what's that saying? Caution?
Yeah,
is that right?
to the wind.
Yeah, that's not probably right. But anyway, if you say just whatever and you're not intentional, then there's danger. But if you're being intentional and you're doing the best you can and you are being purposeful.
Well, don't take for granted the moments that you're together, like going to church together and you're sitting together and you're just like, it's not looking eyeball to eyeball and communicating, but you're together and you're going to your child's program or your child's soccer game and you're sitting together. Like, don't
You're
think,
being a team.
Yes, don't think that that's not connecting
That's
you.
right.
And there is a way to make sure that that's connecting you, because what's going to happen is if you do those things, there's a difference in doing those things as a team and then for the spouse that every free moment they have, I don't want to step on toes, but you're going to the hunting camp or, there's a place for that because that is taking care of yourself.
That's right.
But if that takes over, I'm going to the golf course again. Those things, if it takes over your life where you don't have time to connect with your spouse, then there's a problem.
Right. And hopefully there's a balance in that you still get to go to hunting camp because that
Yep.
brings you joy,
Hey,
that you're making time for your bride as
And
well.
even in the car, like take advantage of the fact
Yeah.
that you may be sitting in the car driving 2 hours to a soccer game or what, whatever you're doing for your child. Take advantage of that opportunity to connect because your kids are back there on their phones or their iPads or devices and stuff. They're not paying any attention. So chat, talk it up. All right. Hope that helps.
That helps.
All right.
Our
So
our Clintonian.
okay.
Our oh my gosh, it's just gone.
It's gone.
It's the word's not there. Not former Clinton, our fellow Clintonian. Gosh, chemo brain is real.
All right. We're going to sign off now on that. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.